All right, you guys, we are going to continue reading Story Thieves. This is chapter 10. We are now in Owen's viewpoint. As Bethany slammed his bedroom door, Owen sighed, then started to go after her. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. How was he going to be best friends with Kel Nomanfoot now? Would anyone even know that he was the one who had saved the Magister if his own whole saving scene hadn't even made it into the book? Plus, what about Narnia? And that there was that other small issue of, well, Bethany being hurt. Not just annoyed or irritated, but actually hurt by what he'd done. And that gave Owen a heavy feeling in the back of his shoulders, like when his mother wasn't mad, just disappointed. Stupid guilt. Bethany, he tried to shout after her, but for some odd reason his lips didn't move, and all that came out was a weird sort of "Hun." What couldn't why couldn't he move his lips? He tried to bring his hands up to touch his mouth, but now his hands decided to play the same lip game and not move either. Arms, legs, toes, nothing worked. And that's when Owen noticed that his bedroom seemed quite a bit brighter than it had a minute ago. "I'd just like a minute of your time, if that's all the same to you," said the voice from behind him. Owen's body froze from disbelief, along with whatever it was that had already frozen him a few seconds ago. That was the Magister's voice. The Magister shouldn't even have a voice, because books don't have voices unless they're audio books. And really, that wasn't the character's voice so much as a person who read the audio book. And yet, there it was in Owen's house, a polite and magical and magistery. "I apologize for such treatment," said the Magister. And Owen's legs turned the rest of him around like some kind of puppet. There, behind him, was a doorway made from brightness, lighting his entire room. And inside the doorway stood a fictional character. Um, this had to be a mistake, right? Sure, the Magister existed in the book, but this was the real, actual, non fictional world, wasn't it? The magician raised a hand, and Owen's body jerked forward, walking like some kind of zombie toward the doorway. "It's just that you disappeared in such a hurry," the Magister said, beckoning Owen forward with one finger. "And after riling up my curiosity in such a way, we can't have that now, can we? I promise this won't hurt a bit." He frowned. "Well, I shouldn't think, at least." Well, that didn't bode well. Owen tried to shout again for Bethany, hoping she'd hear, and rushed back upstairs to shut down this doorway that made of light and save him. But his lips still wouldn't move. His legs kept jerking him forward, though, and soon he was just inches from the doorway. And that's when he saw the one thing in the world that would cheer him up. "Are you taking on a new apprentice without asking me?" said a younger voice, and Kell Nomanfoot, stepped into view behind the Magister. Just like in the books, Kell was dressed in black pants, shirt, and cloak, the better for sneaking in and sabotaging Quanitarium labs. A rope belt weighed down by his pouches hung around his waist, and two different knife wands were holstered at his sides like pistols. All in all, he looked like the coolest thing Owen had ever seen in his entire life. "Ah, Kell," said Magister. He gestured toward Owen. "This is the boy who saved me from Dr. Variety, and somehow knew that I would need saving. You fought Dr. Variety? Kel Nomanfoot, the actual, real, live, sort of, Kel Nomanfoot, said to Owen. With what? He grinned. I'm just kidding. Nice job, buddy. I owe you one. Doesn't matter when or where. You just tell me what you want done. The more dangerous, the better. In fact, if it's world being destroyed dangerous, that's the most fun. So really, you'd be doing me a favor. His grin widened, and he winked. Owen Fanboy giggled in response, only since he couldn't move, it came out more like this weird moaning ghost. Kel winked. That was just so Kel. Kel's grin faded, and he gave Owen an odd look, then turned to the Magister. So the seventh key's location is in the original computer? You know how much I hate going into Quanatarium. That will have to wait for just a moment, apprentice. This might be of greater importance. But even if you captured Dr. Variety, there's an infinite army of science soldiers waiting in orbit around Magisteria, ready to attack. We will still have to shut them down, and all the magic users that were arrested, I need to free them. If this child knows Dr. Variety's plans, we might do well to find out how that is possible before you run off again, the old man said, flashing a patient smile at Kel. Something already worries me. Do you see what I see through the portal? Kel squinted past Owen. Someone doesn't know how to hang up his clothes? The Magister shook his head. The world this boy comes from has no magic. None at all. We could be looking into another alternate reality where magic was truly destroyed. It's even possible that this boy knows Dr. Variety's plans because, in some manner, Dr. Variety exists there as well. Uh-oh. That didn't bode well either. No Dr. Variety, Owen tried to shout. No Dr. Variety. The magic wasn't destroyed. It never existed here. None of that got said, of course, just a lot more moaning. He says that magic never existed there. Kel translated, then paused. You know, I've seen alternate worlds, desolate futures, and the nothingness beyond the end of the universe. But I've never seen anything like that room. He shook his head. It just screams boring. You have to feel bad for whoever grew up there. Ah, appearances might deceive, the Magister said. Look closer. This boy and another girl mentioned a book while they were here. Take a look at those books on his shelves. The Magister gestured, and several books popped off Owen's shelf and began flipping their pages. There's magic in their histories, Kel. Magic everywhere. Schools for magic. Wardrobes leading to magic lands. Gods and monsters, impossible things. And yet, that magic no longer exists in their world. How would that have happened? Kel frowned. Let him talk. Maybe he knows why. Maybe he even wants to help. He turned to Owen. Who do you want to help? Don't you? You saved my master here. I bet you want to learn magic and become amazing and do impossible things, yeah? Of course you do. Everyone does. That's all science people are, just jealous of magic. Want me to teach you some right now? Owen's eyes widened and he tried to nod vigorously. Tried and failed. Answers it shall be, the Magister said. If you wouldn't mind, my boy, just a short trip back to my study. Let's keep it as short as we can, Kel said. I still have to find the seventh key. Owen's feet picked up off the floor and walked him into the shining doorway, then over the wall with a now familiar Magister's tower. There, his uncontrollable hands reached down and fastened chains to his ankles, then to each wrist. The chains magically tightened, making sure he wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Just for your own safety, the Magister said, giving a friendly wink. This really wasn't boding well. The Magister murmured something, and suddenly Owen was free to speak, to move, and to escape. Unfortunately, the chains kept him from doing two of those things. So he went with the third. You're making a big mistake, he shouted. There's no magic in my world. Those books are just made up stories, for entertainment. We love magic so much that we tell each other stories about it, like we wish we could do it. That's it. Trust me. If any of us could, we'd be magicians in a minute. The Magister watched Owen for a moment as Kell made sea gestures with his hands, fidgeting from foot to foot, clearly anxious to get on with his quest book series. But the Magister ignored his apprentice. Instead, he whispered something else, and a weird sort of fog slid into Owen's brain. Now, the magician said, his voice low and commanding, tell me again how there is no magic in your world. There isn't, Owen said, meaning to repeat exactly what he'd just said. Only the strange fog didn't want him to, and for some reason the fog seemed to be in control of his mouth now. Just in fictional stories, like you. You're made up. You don't really exist. None of this is real. It's all just the product of someone's imagination. A writer, an author. His name is Jonathan Potterhouse. He made you up. He made you all up. You don't really exist. All this, your whole war with Dr. Variety, made up. It's not real. There's no such thing as magic. Never was. You are just a bunch of words on a page, and the only reason I'm here is because of my friend Bethany. Well, not really my friend, because I annoyed her, and she brought me here because she does that kind of thing. Wait, what? That is the end of this chapter.